Don't be sad it's over. Be thankful it will never, ever happen again. Alas, it's over. Thank the Lord. I hope everyone's having a fantastic Sunday. That's my phone telling me we are live. We've got a good one tonight. We've got a panel show with some great guests. I'm really excited. You guys listen to me talk about my views on football a lot, Manchester United. And what I love about having this whole community is the fact that we can bring people on who will sometimes agree, sometimes not agree. One of which, honestly, if you follow him on Twitter, which I'll make sure he tells you to watch him and follow him in the bit, incredible analysis of football. We've got Rich as well, who I love his videos, breaks everything down. So let's bring them all on right now. Here we go. So we got Rich and we got Tez. How are we doing, guys?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah, all good. All good. How are you?
Yeah, like I was just saying off air, just bored of international football. Bored of international football. It literally, I think I get more excited going shopping with the wife in Asda and in Matalan and B&M than I do for these games. Do you know what? I didn't even watch the England game. That's how much I just can't be arsed with it. But I digress. Look, you know, what are we? 3 games into the Premier League. We'll obviously digress about Grimsby, but how are we feeling about the season so far? And was there a lot of false hope that we feel we had, or are we thinking, yeah, do you know what? We're where we should be. I'll start with you, Tez, first.
It's a difficult one because I think prior to the season, like all the United fans were probably thinking, right, we need a whole squad rebuild. We need X amount of players. And when the summer started and we signed Cunha very quickly, it was a lot of excitement. And then quickly after that, it took 6-7 weeks to sign Mbeumo. And everybody was a bit like scratching the nails and pulling hairs. And then the other signings kind of came in. And then obviously you had the whole excitement with Baleba. And then on the field, I think it's been a bit of Jekyll and Hyde. I know the stats are showing, United are top for chances created and shots and ball recoveries, etc. But the performances in totality haven't been amazing. So it's been quite a mixed start. I think we need probably like 3 to 4 games with all the signings, with Lammens who come in on deadline day to kind of have a fresh look and see what the potential is of all these players coming in, because it's difficult to tell right now, especially after the Grimsby loss. Like everyone was like, "Oh my god, here we go again, another one of those seasons." But then soon, quick after, last minute winner from Bruno, and people's like spirits are a little bit up. So it's very difficult to tell at the moment. But yeah, that's kind of like my summation so far.
What about you, Rich? Because obviously, I say
it's tricky, isn't it? It's tricky. I think also I have to say, I went on a holiday a couple of weeks ago, and I missed the Grimsby game. I missed the Fulham game because I was away abroad. Didn't watch the games. I was doing other things like in the sea, enjoying myself. And I missed probably the worst game for years, I think, according to fans. And when I came back, I'm kind of thinking, oh, okay, we're going to get rid of like Onana, get Lammens in, things are looking good. And people going, people in the comments on my channel are just constantly talking about the Grimsby game. And I'm thinking, well, I missed a really bad game. So my views are maybe a little bit more optimistic because I've looked at some of the performances, and actually the transfers I do quite like. I think we could have done maybe slightly more, but I think you have to still be realistic. Like Tez was saying, we probably needed like more of everything. Like we needed possibly another goalkeeper, Bayindir out, wing back, maybe defensive cover, midfield for certain. But I was happy with, for me, Mbeumo, when we signed him, I was really positive because I mainly watch the Premier League. I do watch a little bit, maybe more highlights of other leagues, but I liked Mbeumo. I like the way Brentford play, and also the way Brentford have just ruined our team in recent years. You look at Mbeumo as being a key figure, and he's one that's like, for me, has hit the ground running. You see the energy. Also, I think when you look at players in your own team, you kind of scrutinise them more. So I think great first touch, great, more dangerous on counter attacks. I think he's a level up. But again, it's like it's one step in the right direction, and we haven't even seen much of Sesko. people are already saying, "Oh, is Sesko like a waste?" Like, come on, guys, Sesko's barely played. Let the man play football. And people are already saying, "Oh, is Lammens going to cope?" Like, no one knows. Like, guys, just let him play football, and then let's relax. Because I know I try and like say, let's be patient, but I'm super impatient myself. So it's really like saying, like, come on, guys, I'm trying as well. Let's try and give it at least 5-10 games, see where we are. But I think overall, transfer strategy, I like. If you got an option of Watkins or Sesko. Watkins like more reliable possibly, but Sesko for me is more exciting in terms of like let's aim for potentially a higher ceiling, but again we don't know. Lammens again a goalkeeper that stats wise, data wise, kind of off the charts, isn't he? But drop him in Old Trafford, and we've seen drop people in Old Trafford. It's a different situation. So overall, Dan, I'm trying to be positive. I'll say that way, but I need to kind of be a bit more on the pitch to kind of to keep the positivity going.
I wish I'd have bloody gone on holiday for the Grimsby game. Jesus Christ, that was just.
It's good timing.
I think it's at that point where after the Grimsby game finished, I sat there. I went, "What is the point? Like, what is the point in us getting excited anymore?" And I just, I think, look, and we'll go into the stats. I'm really glad that you said that, Tez, about the stats, because the stats can be very misleading as to where we are. And the question I'll ask, and we'll touch on Onana in a second, because finally, we have great news that he is finally leaving this club, regardless of the fact he's a nice guy. And it makes me think of Roy Keane saying he's a nice guy. And yeah, everyone can be a nice guy, but if you're shit at your job, then there's no point, is there? So, but there's a question, and to be fair, I can't remember who put the comment in. Here we go. So Anthony, big shout out to Anthony, and big shout out to the chat. I will come to you all in a sec. How different would this table have looked? And dare I say the Grimsby game, if we'd have had a decent goalkeeper. And you're quite right in saying, Rich, that we don't know if Lammens is the answer yet. The guy has got a lot of potential. You can put a combination together of anybody and they'll look good. You could put a combination of me together and I'd look half decent. You know what I mean? But with a new goalkeeper, with a different goalkeeper, with a stronger goalkeeper, how different would our season have looked? Because we know from the 4 games we've played so far, we've had 5 goalkeeping errors. The one against Arsenal, the one against Fulham, 2 against Grimsby, and then the one against Burnley. So, am I being a sympathiser here, or am I being realistic in saying that without those errors, this league could have looked a lot different, and we could have been, dare I say, sat here tonight saying, "Hang on a minute, we're 3rd or 4th here. How the hell's that happened?" What do we think about that?
Potentially, I think the bigger, so not to kind of skate over that question, but the bigger picture thinking is how are United playing in those games? Because yes, obviously it's very difficult when individuals make mistakes, and it kind of then means that you're kind of effectively a goal down before you even step onto the pitch. But in terms of United creating chances and actually dominating spells of the game, I don't think there's been enough of that. Yes, you could say against Burnley, but Burnley are a team that's just been promoted, and the quality difference between United and Burnley is vast. So, and we were home at Old Trafford, so I kind of take those things into account. I think what will happen with the goalkeeper situation it'll be interesting, because I don't know whether Amorim and the coaching staff say, yeah, City and Chelsea next, Lammens straight in there. Let's see, what you're made of in terms of like mentality, etc. Or they kind of blood him in slowly, because if you then go with Bayindir and he makes a mistake again, you're then now thinking, oof, we have to play Lammens and there's more pressure. It's almost like a lose-lose situation, which is not really ideal for him. So I think, yes, to the answer to your question, yes, the table could have been completely different, but I just don't think that the performances have been good enough in a kind of holistic point of view to really say, we're on the right track. I think there's been spells, 15 minutes here, 10 minutes here, flashes of like really good players, because we've got good players in attacking areas. So, like I said, it's probably a little bit too early to judge. But obviously, if there wasn't those mistakes and United had won 3-3, I wouldn't be complaining.
That's our right as Man United fans. And to be fair, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts with that, Rich? Because it is, isn't it? It's a what if scenario. You know,
I'll say with that one. I think when you're looking at this, and you know, we only got a few games to go by, but the fact you can list that many goalkeeping errors is like a massive problem, isn't it? Because normally that's kind of like how many goalkeeping errors did Schmeichel have over a season? Like I remember, like sometimes they were catastrophic, but they were like one per every like I know like 20, 30 games. I remember watching them live, and like the amount of errors he made were quite small. And I think the problem last season, to maybe that on a bigger data set, is that we'd have a lot of controlling games, but we didn't concede lots of chances, and we lost games 1-0. And again, last season you could blame like we should have scored. We scored no goals, so we wouldn't have won the game anyway. But the goalkeeping errors, considering how many shots we face, we're kind of actually, I think we're limiting chances, which is a positive. And I think with Arsenal, the issue with that one was, okay, we had lots of touches in the box, we had lots of attacking play. We overall, like, we should have scored a goal. Like Arsenal were, I think, fortunate to win that game. But the problem is going to be that once you get an error, like say that against Spurs in the final, against Arsenal, then the game changes somewhat because Arsenal don't need to score a second goal. Spurs don't need to score a second goal. So the onus is on us to attack. We're going to be more attacking. Arsenal are not going to be taking risks. So it kind of makes the game. I think it'd be an interesting one where, again, it's difficult to say, isn't it? But I think United, the game's very different if we don't give away those cheap goals. Arsenal then have to attack, and I think it gives us a chance to maybe get a better chance on the counter attack. So overall, like, we'd definitely be better in the league because I think it's just like a no-brainer that many goalkeeping errors in like 4 or 5 games. We're talking about an error per game on average is unsustainable, isn't it? It's really bad. So much better, but again, individual games, it's hard to say, isn't it? But certainly over the course of the season, we're way better off.
Yeah, no, I hear it. I hear that. Let me just shout out some people. Big shout out to Ben. Good to see you, mate. And make sure you are doing exactly what he says. Hit the like button and subscribe. Shout out to Never. Dugout is straight in there with the joke of Onana's move being off.
Yeah, I heard that as they look. Hopefully everything's like facts through, and it's just got his honest.
Honestly,
I'll be pushing him on the plane myself.
It'll be like the story of Harry Redknapp and Benjani, wasn't it? When he had to go down to the airport and literally walk him onto the plane to get him out of Portsmouth for the big money move. Big shout out, Jamie. Good to see you, Moxie, as well. Big shout out, one of the OGs. And yes, as you said, make sure you hit and like and subscribe. Mikla Mick says, thought you were going to say Holdbridge and Terry Fluersdam was ready to write. Happily surprised. I'll talk about that in a second. Big shout out to Never, and of course Anthony and Chappie and Kev as well. And there are a few in there that I'll catch up with in a second. Now, here's the thing that I want to ask. So we signed Sesko. We spent a lot of money on this lad, and Amorim has just preferred for some reason this front three with a false 9. Now, yes, we can say that Sesko needed time to get fit, and we understand that. And then there was cramp against Grimsby, but I don't think we're seeing the final package of what Manchester United are trying to achieve here. Yes, we know the goalkeeper's a massive issue, but equally last season, putting the ball in the back of the net was a bigger one. So it's kind of, for me, this front three, he can't keep doing this revolving, the false 9, and we're seeing Mount push forward, then we're seeing Cunha do it, then we're seeing Brian do it. Are we concerned? And I do want to say this. Any rival fan saying it's Hoyland Mark II, let's just steady the pace a second. The lad's just joined here. He's just getting used to it. He's hungry and ready. Are we worried that he is more focused on that false 9 front three, or do we think he is actually going to start pushing Sesko up there and giving this lad minutes, because he needs minutes, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'll let Rich. You can go first on this.
Yeah, I think with this one, again, I missed a couple of games, but I think what we're seeing here is that he's kind of like almost like what's good for Man United is probably these players coming in, getting minutes and getting up to speed. Like say, Lammens coming in, Sesko coming in, but obviously it's a results-based business, and there's pressure on Ruben Amorim to get results at the start of the season because you know how it went last season. So maybe there's a bit of overcaution, and we know that he really rates Mason Mount. He said it last season, and we were kind of thinking, well, okay, we're not going to see it because Mason Mount's so injury-prone. And you can see that, I think there was a couple of games pre-season where, okay, different front three, different players playing, but we saw pressing and winning the ball back high up the pitch against Bournemouth, for example, in pre-season. And I was thinking, okay, this is like different. Manchester United actually got some people that can run. And I'm just wondering whether, at the moment, whether Sesko said himself, didn't he, in an interview, that the levels are like way elevated in the Premier League, and I think we know that. But again, you don't get used to the Premier League by sitting on the bench watching. Eventually, you've got to get some minutes there. So maybe it's overly cautious, but I get the feeling that he's going to get minutes at a time. Maybe some of the games are like City is not the best game to throw people in, but I'd imagine that I think he's going to start on the bench against City, and I would imagine, or it depends on who's available and which players are going there. But maybe it's overly cautious. So I don't know. It's difficult, but again, I want to see more time because I was one of these fans that was interested in the Sesko signings. It's kind of a bit different from, and again, I'm not comparing him to Rasmus. That comparison is crazy because I think Rasmus had. What's the best way of putting it nicely? It's the worst striker I've seen at United for multiple reasons, not just first touch, positional awareness.
Worse than Weghorst? Worse than Beatty?
I think he is slightly.
I think he's like it is. I'll say this.
Okay. I won't have a bad word said about Weghorst. I absolutely love that.
At least Weghorst was in position to take shots, wasn't he? He wasn't clinical, but he was effective in other ways. Weghorst. I think with Rasmus, like he doesn't hold the ball up. His first touch is dreadful. I don't know. His awareness of where to be on the pitch is dreadful. And I say we're a similar age, Dan. And I was talking to my dad a couple of months ago, saying it's the worst striker I've seen at United, and it was the worst striker he'd seen. I was going like, fair play. That's going back to the '60s. And I think it's like to say Sesko's the same based on what's the narrative here? Is that he's a player that's of a similar age. That's about it. It comes from a different league. There's no comparison at all. It's like Lammens, and I know people are saying Lammens will be the same, but it's. I think it's like in terms of what he worked. We scouted him for about 4 years, haven't we?
Longer than that.
If we don't get this one right, I mean, we must have a good idea of whether he's good enough. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know what Tez says. I'm just kind of hoping he gets some minutes and I can judge him by because I'd rather go what he does on the pitch rather than and I haven't seen enough.
Yeah, I think so. I kind of agree on the Højlund point that I think regardless of strikers being able to put the ball in the back of the net, obviously that's really important. I think the biggest thing that Højlund suffered with was the positional awareness. It was how to be a threat without being in the box. It was how do I press? How does this manager want me to, shadow mark the defenders when the defenders are on the ball of the opposition, or where am I supposed to be when my fullback or wingback has the ball? What runs to make? He just seemed to kind of lose all of that intelligence, and I think I know it was a small sample size, but from what we've seen against Burnley and Grimsby, I think Sesko's got a lot better movement, especially off the sides of centre-backs, in between full-back, centre-back, trying to get into the box. And those are the kind of things that you look for, even if the player hasn't, shown that he's getting lots of chances or putting the ball in the back of the net. You want to see whether the player is capable of troubling defenders without the ball. And I think he's shown small glimpses. I actually think against City would be the perfect game to play.
Me too. I
think City are they're not high on confidence right now. They're playing a ridiculously high line. And I just think in a game where I don't know whether United will go and try and go toe-to-toe, but if it's a game where we sit off a little bit in the space and behind, you just think try and win the game with a striker on the field rather than bringing one on if the game is then getting away from you, because I think he's completely new to the league. Centre-backs don't really know him. They haven't played against him. Just throw him in. Like other managers in previous years, if this was Van Gaal, he would have been playing. Obviously, there might be a fitness issue, but we've seen Van Gaal play Rashford at the Etihad. Rashford more or less retired. Demichelis, he put the ball in the back of the net. Other managers haven't been scared to throw their strikers in, and I think he's probably played. I think he played the other day for Slovenia.
Yeah, I think he played international break, so I think he should be up to speed, like fitness wise.
Yeah, so I think his sharpness will be there a little bit. Whether he can last the full 90 minutes, I'm not too sure. But I think starting him, especially with Cunha and Mount, I'm unsure whether they'll both be back. I think there's probably bigger chance of Cunha being back than Mount, just because Mount, once he gets injured, he kind of stays injured for a long time.
Shame though, Tez, isn't it? Because I've enjoyed Mount. Like I said at the end of last season, the problem we've had with Mason Mount as United is we've seen him fit, but we haven't seen this guy match fit. We haven't seen this guy have a run of games, and for him to get injured again, it just leaves such a sour taste, because I actually thought he looked okay. I'm not saying that he's the answer moving forward, but it just, I mean, how much bad luck can this lad have?
Yeah, and I actually partly think part of the reason why him and Cunha have managed to pick up a bit of a injury at the moment is due to how we play.
Yeah.
There's a lot expected of that front three, especially the ones who are off to the sides, or the 10s, whatever you want to call them, of dropping into midfield, pushing up into the attack, dropping in, splitting wide. And I think the amount of running and high intensity sprints that they've probably done in these first couple of weeks and in pre-season has just caught up to them. And I think that's probably why Sesko hasn't been thrown in straight away, because if he's not up to that rhythm, he might then also fall to an injury. So it'll be interested. One player that I think did well against Burnley, even though he should have scored, was Xerxes when he came on. So I don't know whether there's an opportunity to start Sesko, Xerxes and Mbeumo if Cunha and Mount aren't fit, because I don't really trust this manager of playing Mainoo, even though I think it'd be the perfect game for him.
Don't get me started, because it's like, and actually you segue it quite well, lads, because like this here was the lineup that started against Burnley. You could argue Mbeumo was higher than Cunha, but this was the lineup, and you look at it and we know we started the game at lightning speed again, and it was like, yes, this is what we want to see: attack, attack, attack. But against City, I don't know. I mean, we don't know what. I personally think that Fernandes will get pushed forward into the 10. I think he'll bring Dorgu back in, because Dalot looks like he's injured anyway. And then it's that midfielder next to Casemiro. Now, he can't play Ugarte and Casemiro. If he does that, we will be absolutely decimated at the Etihad. I don't care if they're in a terrible situation at the moment. This is the game that is crying out for Mainoo to come in for me, regardless of the noise we're hearing in the background of him putting what he puts on Instagram. And I know that the United stand, Mark Goldbridge, are trying to take credit for the fact, because they've come out and said what they've said, he's come out and said no, he's quashed all that. But the two positions for me here, chaps, I'll start with you, Rich, is goalkeeper and midfield, because I think the team kind of picks itself. I'd like to think it does, but it's like, it's that argument now. Do we just throw in Lammens there? Do we throw in Mainoo in there? What are your thoughts?
So I've said I'd like to see Lammens playing, mainly because if Bayindir's playing, I don't have any confidence. I think that he's a magnet for like long range shots, because he'll parry it into a dangerous area. He always looks nervous, like no matter what set piece he looks. Do you watch the Everton game pre-season when they lined up a free kick and James Garner went to set it up? I was just saying, I think Bayindir looks nervous, and he just parried it into like poorly. It hit the post from the rebound. So I would love to see Lammens playing. There might be a reason why he's not, but I would put him in if I was making the call. Midfield's really tricky, actually. I think do you remember how at the City game, I think the draw last season, where City had loads of quite slow possession, and I think our outlets at that point were Dorgu and maybe Garnacho and Dorgu. I'm trying to think who it was. But I was thinking with Mbeumo, if you got him as the outlet, where he's definitely capable of putting in some good crosses towards Sesko and causing problems, but also I think with Mbeumo, he's a lot more dangerous than we've had in the past, because he's a good finisher, he's a good crosser, and I think he's a good decision maker. So the midfield's going to be key, like you said. I don't know whether. Do you think if he pushes Bruno forward, then I would put Kobbie in midfield. But if he puts Bruno, do you think he's going to push Bruno forward, or Bruno is going to play in midfield? I wouldn't be surprised if we see Bruno alongside Casemiro.
The only thing you could see maybe is if they maybe keep Bruno by Casemiro, push Ahmad into the 10 and put Mazraoui on the wide right, maybe. That's a potential I didn't think about before. But, I mean, look, at the moment, I kind of just feel like Amorim doesn't rate Kobbie. What are you saying, Tez?
Yeah, to be honest, I think Grimsby obviously came on half-time for Ugarte, and then I think he purposely put him on against Burnley when the injuries happened, instead of bringing on Sesko to make a bit of a point. I don't know whether that was a kind of the window shutting in a few days. I still would like a midfielder kind of move. But in the meanwhile, I don't want Mainoo to leave, so I'm going to play you. Or that was just generally a case of, I think Mainoo's the best person for the game. I would personally, I think Mainoo should come into it because I think all his best games have been the biggest games, which is funny thing. Like Etihad away last season, he was great. At Anfield, he was great. Even in the FA Cup against Anfield, FA Cup final, all the massive games in Europe against Lyon. So he's a big game player, and I think what he will bring to this game is a bit of calm and someone who can take the ball and dribble through the midfield. Because regardless of whatever you say about City, they still got a good midfield. They've still, if Rodri is even 75% fit, he'll play. Reinders has had a decent start to the season, and Bernardo, even though he's not the same, he brings a lot of energy and he'll keep the ball. And I think when United play, a lot of the time we don't keep the ball for long enough periods of time.
We definitely don't. We don't. You're right.
We hit teams in bursts of like high energy. Of recent, we've had Cunha and Mbeumo do something magic, and we've nearly scored. And I think the evolution of the team will be to keep the ball a little bit more and put teams under a little bit of pressure. But as we're still going through that kind of development, I think Mainoo with Casemiro. I would also bring Mazraoui in. For sure. And I'd swap Mazraoui and Yoro, and I think that helps us with progression as well. Because when Mazraoui came on against Burnley, he was really good. I think he's one of the better signings of the last couple of years as well. And I think any position you kind of play him in, he does a really solid job. So I would not play Shaw, bring in Mazraoui, bring in Kobbie, and just go with Lammens. I think international break, he's probably given himself 2 weeks to kind of relax and settle and just go with him and just kind of back him if he's going to be the number one. I think it doesn't really make sense to put Bayindir in there again.
No, I agree.
Especially if because I can just see it, he makes a mistake and the next game is Chelsea. And then you're almost like having to say, Lammens, you're in by default. And I just think give Lammens 5, 6, 7 games, a cup game, take him out, bring him in again, and just kind of back the players that you sign.
Do we think it's a telling situation here where we've got Lammens in and straight away Onana's gone? Is that a telling situation that maybe without telling the fans we're putting our faith behind this guy, we are telling the fans we're putting our faith behind?
I think so. I think it's like saying Onana said exactly the same things as Rasmus did, didn't he? I want to fight for my position. I think Manchester United said, no, you've lost the fight. Lammens is coming in. And I think that's what it said. If Onana was the number one goalkeeper for 2 seasons, like 2 seasons too long, but the number one. And I think that's what he's saying is Lammens is coming in, and it's kind of like, we're just clearing Onana's desk out for you. There you go. This is a nice place here. We're just throwing Onana's stuff out. We're putting that on a plane soon. And I think they're just going, right, Lammens going to come in as number one. So the debate was going to be a couple of weeks ago was, who do we move out? Do we move out Onana or Bayindir? And I thought if Bayindir goes, you kind of got a more difficult conversation. Yeah. And if you go back a few weeks, like when we're talking about Emi Martinez or Donnarumma links to like a month ago, any one of those players comes in, they're instantly first choice. But I think Onana with Lammens still is a kind of little bit of doubt. But I think Onana leaving pretty much clarifies that for me that you're definitely number one. But as number one, like Tez was saying, as number one, start him against City, start him against Chelsea, and just go, look, you're going to play X amount of games until we give Bayindir a go at some point. But that's you got to back the players you sign. And the same like in Mbeumo Cunha, you want to see them as soon as possible, don't you? Like we're looking forward to the City game, and I think we're looking forward to the City game, thinking we don't want to see Bayindir on the team sheet. That's going to be like a little bit of a downer.
Do you know what though? He's not been afraid to do that, has he? I mean, how many times have we got? We're waiting for the starting 11. We're thinking, oh, brilliant! Today's the day. Sesko's going to start. And then you look at it and you go, really? Like really? Like the one thing about Amorim, yeah. Do you know what I mean? But I think Amorim he's shown this season, and he's shown last season to be fair. Like he ain't going to bend to what people want. I think he will do what he wants. Now, do I agree with a lot of his decisions this season? Absolutely not. I think some of his decisions have been ridiculous at times, and this constant need to play the 3-4-3, which we know as United fans. We've watched this, we've seen this story now time and time again, and I've said it before, when teams like Burnley and Fulham and Grimsby after the game are coming out and saying we knew exactly what to do, just go through the, it kind of hurts. Now, again, the keeper comes in, it's City away. For me, I said it off air and I've said it to my chat a lot, I actually don't fear us going to City. I genuinely don't. I think, and I'll ask you guys this, I personally think Pep is under more pressure here than Ruben Amorim is, because what I saw with Pep in his last game against Brighton, I saw a guy on the side of the pitch that kind of looked like he was out of ideas here. He was like, hang on a minute, this used to work. This, I'd do these changes and I wouldn't have any concerns here. Now, Ruben Amorim seems to, by some weird, bizarre way, have had Pep's number the last few times we played, even in the doldrums of last season, if we think back to who started that game. I think Manchester United, considering what our aspirations are this season, where we think we should be or where we are going to end up, I absolutely feel like we can go there and get a result. Or am I just being a bloody stupid fool here and thinking this? Lads, tell me.
No, I understand where you're coming from. I think it's so hard to tell because this City is just a bit Jekyll and Hyde. Like, they still have the ability to beat anyone, but at the same time, when you actually play them, you kind of have this feeling like if we catch them on the right day, and especially with their new high line that they've been playing, I think they've brought in Pep Linders and they're purposely trying to catch teams offside. And I think they tried to do it against Brighton in the second half, and it just really didn't work for them. And I can just see with the way United play, that is going to be our kind of upside in creating chances. I do actually hope Cunha is fit, because I feel like with his ability to run with the ball and his passing ability, and in Mbeumo, the way he started with his movement, I think that is just tailor-made. And even last season when Ahmad moved from wing-back and then pushed into the 10, and then his runs in between kind of created both goals. So I think, as well as that, City also have their own conundrum, because they've just signed a new goalkeeper similar to United. And I know Trafford was brought in probably with the thought of him being a young keeper who's going to be the number one. Do they throw Donnarumma straight in? Or do they think, Trafford, you've been on number one for the first 3 games of the season, we'll wait for Europe to bring Donnarumma in? So it'll be interesting to see how they go. I just hope, what I don't want to see is we play wing backs in the 5 defenders.
Yeah.
Where it's Dalot and Dorgu, or Mazraoui and Dalot. I think, yes, be careful going to the Etihad, but I just think try and win the game and then shut up shop, rather than shut up shop and then think, it's just like against Arsenal. The whole reason why Ahmad didn't probably start is because we were scared of their threat, and there wasn't really a threat. So I'd say just go and try and win the game.
That's been our biggest problem though, Rich, hasn't it? I think, when we go 1-0 up, and Amorim said this so many times, hasn't he? It's like we go 1-0 up and then the team, I think, just gets terrified of losing that lead, instead of having that initiative of, right, we've gone 1-0 up, now let's go get the second and let's get the third. We're almost going the goal up and then almost sort of saying, right, that's us. We'll let you come and attack us now, which big teams don't do that. Big teams go out there, they smell blood. Against Burnley first half, we could have been 6-7 up. It was ridiculous. Are we waiting for that performance? Are we waiting for this team to learn that, get that goal, get the second, and then start showing some defensive unity there? What are your thoughts?
I think so. With that game, like the Burnley game, we had so many chances, but when you're watching that match live, I think I was thinking that it's going to take one like mistake or one good attack from Burnley to actually make it. And when they scored, I wasn't surprised. So I was thinking, okay, here we go again. We've had like 4 or 5 good chances, but then with City, I think, if we do take the lead again, I think City are going to be under pressure as well, as much as probably more than we are, because they've had 2 defeats out of 3 defeats out of 4 to start the season, considering the way Liverpool's starting and the way that presumably, I don't know who Arsenal are playing on the weekend.
Great point.
But it's like, a draw doesn't really. A draw is quite a bad result for City in this match. Where a draw for us, we'd be like, hey, a draw at the Etihad. Again, probably if we did get a draw, we'd probably be looking at why we didn't win it. I think that in terms of the approach has definitely got to be, you've got to have a goal threat on the pitch, in my opinion, in terms of like Tez was saying with the wing backs, because if you don't have a goal and like a significant goal threat on the pitch, that's given the opposition the green light to actually go forward. And I think one of the problems we had last season where teams attacked with impunity, knowing that we had Højlund and we had Garnacho, so we had a player that's going to be making bad decisions, passing to someone that can't finish. So I think they were more confident attacking. With this one, I saw comments saying like weak mentality. It's probably just like, I don't know if it's a weak mentality. I think the quality was lacking last season. Like the quality wasn't there. I think this season, it feels like it's closer. But again, till the goals start going in, you're going to be questioning a few things. I think not having Sesko on the pitch is a disappointment. But I think that maybe we're going to see a change in the next few games. It's kind of, I'm almost like kind of fast forward into the games in my mind, thinking, right, if we do this against City, what do we do against Chelsea? And then looking forward to Brentford game. But I think we're just going to have to see. With City, certainly, I'd be disappointed if we don't get a point out of that game as a minimum. And I think based on City, they've got a very good attack. And like Holland's ridiculous. He just gets, even if they play badly, he's going to get a chance and probably be a big problem. But I think the City defence for me is more vulnerable than it's been for ages. I think it was vulnerable last season, and I don't see it improving. And that's why I can see that people would say keep it tight defensively, etc. But we need to have a significant goal threat as well, because you don't win the game by creating one or two chances. You're going to have to create a decent amount of chances.
We're going to have to do something we've not done before. Go for the kill, aren't we? I just genuinely think. And look, it's a derby. The derby throws up. It's different. League form out the window. I love a proper good end-to-end derby match. Obviously, football nowadays isn't really about the end-to-end. It's more a tactician of two managers who can do what they want. But I think with this, I think Tez is bang on with this. I think we unleash Sesko in this game. I personally still think he'll push Bruno forward, and I think with Bruno there, and I think with Brian, we all know Brian's got the pace to hit them with that high line. So Sesko, I mean, people forget Sesko's quite rapid. He's a rapid boy. What we see there, what we haven't seen this season from the start, is there's different variations of goal threats there. We've got Bruno, who we know will try and hit a ball sometimes from 50 yards to try and put it in the top bins. You've got Brian, who can carry the ball and do the unexpected and get it onto his left and do something. And we've also got Brian being able to put those crosses in for Sesko. Sesko loves a ball in the air. So it's just, I think there's different variations to this game for us to get excited about.
Yeah, I think what we should probably try and do is similar to when we played Liverpool away last season, and we targeted the right-hand side, and it was Bruno and Dalot, and it was very much so, let's get the ball to Bruno in the pockets, Dalot get really high and wide and get combinations and get crosses in. And I think, especially with City, I'm quite surprised they didn't sign a right-back, because their right-back options are Rico Lewis and a converted Matthias Nunes, who's again a midfielder that Pep doesn't really fancy playing in midfield. So I think there's a chance there. The one thing that I would really like Amorim to do, which I don't know why it hasn't been tried before, but is just to use Ahmad not on the right-hand side and move him to the left-hand side. I think.
Honestly, I saw the lineup the other day and I thought, he's done it. He's put him on the left. Brilliant. Yeah. And then it showed it was actually, I mean, why would you put Dalot, who's right-footed, on the left? We already know with Dalot, it completely kills his game because defenders know he's going to have to try and cut back in. Just put Ahmad on the left. I think he's ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen from Amorim, he likes his wing backs to be opposite footed, because when we're building up from the back, especially when you go from like your wide centre backs into your wing backs, they can hook the ball without having to turn onto the stronger foot. So they can face their own goal but still play. I'm not the biggest fan. I think there's a trick being missed where we ask too much of Dorgu sometimes, because I don't actually think he's the best going forward. I think he's a decent all-round player, but he doesn't have the same final ball or ability to take someone on. And I think there's games where I just think Ahmad's on the right, just put him onto the left. and let him go at the fullback and let him attack, because Ahmad's a player who wants to drive into the box, and I think we lack that from the left-hand side a lot. Everyone on the left kind of wants to come inside a little bit, and I think, especially against City, I think there's a real chance to get at Rico Lewis or Nunes, whoever's going to start. It could even sometimes, Pep plays a centre-back, a full-back as well, but there is space there, and as long as we don't get crowded out in the midfield, I think your what you said before, Dan, of Bruno playing as a 10 will happen, because that's probably why Mount has played a lot, because he tucks back in, he jumps out. I think Amorim's going to want to keep that. It's just whether we can have enough of the ball for that to be effective, to where we're not just sitting back with a 5 and then a 4 and a 1. But be interesting to see.
What are your thoughts, Rich?
I quite like that. So in terms of like trying to attack City's weakness, we know that no matter how many goalkeepers they sign, they've still got a problem at right back, which is good to see. And it's good to see they haven't addressed some of their other weaknesses in centre back position. But no, I like that idea. Like, in terms of what we did against Liverpool, I think we saw against Burnley, okay, opposite side, but you see Ahmadou likes to drive into the box there, and in that instance got a penalty. And this is kind of what I'd like to see in terms of when you got, say, like Seska's a goal threat. If Bruno's further forward, the good thing about Bruno is that we know he's got a good shot from that sort of distance, edge of the box. And did he have one disallowed against City in the final? It was like a worldie into the top corner that might have been like a fraction offside.
Yeah.
But he's done this again. I think, okay, Bruno gets a bit of criticism. I think he's a big game player as well. Against City, he usually steps up. I think it's kind of like maybe the manager's got to be a bit brave and actually fight his aversion to Mainoo and stick him in midfield, and then maybe go for it. But no, I like the idea of Ahmadou opposite wing, but let's see if he's brave enough. That's you got to try and attack City and go with that sort of plan. I don't like the idea of when we approached Arsenal. I looked at the start of the match, and it was pretty much like we just set up not to lose, with the idea that our bench then changes the game. Like we stick in the game for 60 minutes, then try and win it. And I think with City, even under Ollie, if you look at the wins we've had against City, usually we scored quite early in those games, where it's like a penalty or hit them on the break. We've usually attacked them quite early. Okay, admittedly, it's usually with pacier players like Rashford and Dan James causing the issues, and like Martial, if you go back another year. And I just wonder whether we can do that as well, because City, first 10, 15 minutes, if you get a goal against them, it kind of changes the dynamic, doesn't it? It puts the pressure on them. It does mean then we can play. And again, maybe City are one of those teams where it does work a bit with being defensive, because they are quite vulnerable, I think, on the break, where a bit more so than Arsenal. But either way, I do agree with, like, when you say that you're being crazy, I think you're not crazy, because City got significant weaknesses in their team, and we've got some strengths in those areas. So it's not crazy, but it would just be, you could just as easily see City fans looking at Man United and thinking, we should be beating Man United, because they're going to put in a goalkeeper. Let's test him. Let's put some pressure on him. Put balls into the box. Put Haaland up against him, and you can see that might be their tactic. That will be considered a weakness for us as well.
I think. Do you know something? Why would City think that? They're blowing in the table. They're probably looking, going, Christ, we're playing a team in the top 10 here. No, I'm joking, of course. Okay, so with Amorim then this season, we know he had a free pass, last season. We know that everyone was of the opinion, rival fans aside, okay, he needs his players in. We need to give him the time. With what we've seen so far this season, and with what we've got to go through in the next couple of weeks, because let's not forget, we play City, then we play Chelsea, then we've got obviously Brentford, Sunderland, then it's the big one against Liverpool. This guy's got tough game after tough game coming. Do we think, because we know he's a passionate guy, do we think that his passion will get the better of him, his emotion will get the better of him, and cause this to maybe derail? Because what I don't want to see from this manager, and I've been very vocal about this, what I saw against Grimsby with the penalty shootout, with this guy rocking back and forth with his head in his hands, regardless of the fact it's, I hate penalties, but you have to watch them, don't you? I'm a bloody fan, but in those aspects, I think the last thing that this team needs at the moment, considering how much we've been through, the last thing they need is to have an over-emotional manager who is constantly saying, look, if I'm not wanted here, I'll go. I don't want the money. And is there a moment where the team, the lads in the club have to say, look, Ruben, stop. We need to be united now. We can't keep seeing you having a meltdown every time. And will this affect him further on in the season?
I think to the point that you made earlier on, both of you, in terms of when United score and they kind of like drop back, and the idea of allowing the opposition the time to come onto us and kind of sitting back. I think that also feeds in from the way the manager responds, because you see it on the touchline where things that are not as bad as they seem, because I know he's been criticised for his body language and sometimes people are saying it's over the top, but if you're a player on the pitch and you see your manager either hunched on his, on his feet, on his knees almost, and then you get a penalty and he doesn't look at the penalties and he's pacing up and down, I think that just transcends to some of the players, and that then means the players play with this anxiety a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
And I actually do think after the Grimsby game, people in the board actually said to him, listen, when you do your next interview or press conference and stuff, can you just rein it in a bit? The difference in like 48 hours was so vast. I get that he was in the game and the emotions were kind of high, and he was saying, for him to say the players' performances spoke really loudly, to almost insinuate that these players were trying to get him sacked or something along those lines. But then these are the same players who are celebrating like they've won the Champions League after beating Burnley. I'm thinking there's a disconnect somewhere there. And it's fine to be a manager and be passionate and kind of, tell it how it is. But you also need to create this feeling of us versus them. And I think Amorim needs to learn and lean into that, your players are playing for you and they're a representation of how you are, rather than just separating themselves. Because sometimes he'll say things and he'll say the team, and I'm thinking it's a we, it's a us, it's a Manchester United. It's not a I'm Amorim and that's the team, because if you keep doing that and things aren't going well on the pitch, then all it takes is for some of the senior players to be like, this guy is distancing himself too much. Why should we also then kind of,
I agree.
really want to play for this guy? But yeah, I do think he does need to be careful, because there's only so many times you can say to your employer that I want to leave, and they just
telling you, honestly, one day they're just going to go, Ruben, right, in you come, right, you're gone. Well, no, I didn't mean it like that. No, I'm just saying. Honestly, I don't think I've ever heard a football manager in my life turn around and say I'll walk as many times in one season. It's got to stop, Rich. It's got to stop.
No, it's just it's like having any sort of group at work. He's the leader, isn't he? So even if he thinks things are going badly, it's almost like he's got to put out a brave front on it and say, look, and just exude confidence if he can from the sideline, no matter what's going on. And in terms of we talk about, say, Ferguson or Roy Keane, and the what's happening on the pitch should represent what you want to happen. I think Ruben Amorim, based on some of the reasons we signed him, in terms of exciting attacking football is what we want to see. I would like to see him looking maybe more involved. Again, I missed the Grimsby game. Luckily, I did. But as you're saying, the body language sounds like it was dreadful, and people were saying that he's not looking. I mean, I don't like penalty shootouts, but I watch them all, and you have to watch, don't you?
Rich,
I'm not going to be.
He was like Conor McGregor at the start when he got his pre-match interview. Everyone knows I love Kobbie. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute. I was sat there with Kevin. I did live streams with him, and I was thinking, this guy doesn't understand what's at stake here. This guy thinks we're going to just turn up and steamroll this team.
Yeah.
In cup football in England, it has been proven year after year, decade after decade.
Do you think there's also a bit of naivety from, say, like Ragnick, Erik ten Hag, Ruben Amorim, that maybe, okay, I don't watch the Portuguese league. I mean, the quality, I know where it stands. I don't watch a lot of other leagues, which, like, say, Eredivisie, etc. But the difference is, in in the Premier League, like say, like Liverpool lost to lower league opposition. Let's say Chelsea lost to, didn't they lose like a League One team when they were 2-0 up? So these teams don't roll over. They see. Yeah, they see Manchester United. It's a kind of a big thing in England, isn't it? It's a cup upset. That's what they're there for. The fans that have come out to see them. If they're not going to win against Manchester United, they're going to kick the player. They're going to get stuck in. They're going to put in the maximum effort. You're not going to get an easy game. You have to still win these games. And I think what we're seeing as well is like, I think Rangnick underestimated mid-table teams in the Premier League and teams near the bottom in the Premier League. The quality is a lot higher across the league than there is in Portugal. You don't get like 20, 30 easy games. You get difficult games. If you're not on your game, like City are finding out now, and Newcastle are finding out, if you're not on your game, you lose games quite quickly. And City lost and they lose about 8 or 10 in a row last season, or quite a few.
It was 1 in 12 they won, wasn't it? It was the worst I've seen.
It's not like a big drop-off, is it? It's like a little bit of a drop-off in these games, and it costs you. And Burnley just been promoted, the same way as like Luton Town, when they were just promoted, they were a really difficult team for us because they were resilient and they didn't give in. And that's why if we're 1-0 up, these teams will get a chance at some point. You have to go 2 or 3 if you can. If the chances are there and you're playing well, you need to. How many times we watched like Rooney and Ronaldo kill a team off in 20 minutes? You just blitz them, you get 2-0 up, then you sit back. It's like the job's not done at 1-0. You kind of need to keep going, because even if they get an equaliser, you need to be in the mentality where you're still attacking throughout the full 90, because ultimately that's how you're going to get the win.
But then we're so used to, aren't we? I mean, for years, even we could be 2-0 down under Fergie, and you'd sit there and go, I'm not really worried here, because we know we're going to get a chance. We know we're then going to stretch them. I just think, and actually, I'll just come back to Dominic here, because Dominic says Klopp used to pace up and down and not watch pens. Brian Clough used to not watch pens. So the message you are trying to say is that he's a bad manager because of his personality. No, I'm not. I think you've misconstrued that, Dominic. What I'm saying is that factored in with this guy is constantly saying he wants to, he will walk if we don't want him. I don't think it's a great thing for the players. As Tez has said, I think the senior players will look at this and it will just keep happening and happening. And it's in this world, as Manchester United manager, you cannot have your players thinking he said he's going to quit again. Oh, don't worry. He says this all the time. We can't have that. We need a manager.
It creates headlines, doesn't it? Like Manchester United are so over-reported. It gives the press like too much stuff to work with. The press love it because he gives them headline after headline. He turns up after punching a TV or something, or these sort of things. That.
And I think to add to that, Amorim doesn't sometimes help himself in the way he comes across so different sometimes. So, for example, after the Grimsby game, someone asked him about being flexible, your formation, being flexible. And you could see he was getting irate to the point where he was visibly had to hold his face because he was just going to shout. Because basically the whole talk about, you play 3 at the back, why can't you change depending on the opposition, etc. And his response was really kind of grounded in the fact that he's saying, I've been hired for this idea. If I wasn't hired for this idea, I wouldn't be here. The team and the management above me all know that they wanted me for this idea. I think he's almost showing his cards too much.
Is it not a case of him saying, you wanted this?
Yeah. He's almost like, well, I've been hired because of this. And if they don't want to do this, then I'm just going to go. I think he needs to have a bit more of a poker face when he's talking about certain things, which, again, he's a young manager. And to the point that Rich said before about the naivety, I think from the outside, because the managers have been so successful elsewhere, you're obviously going to come to United with an air of, I'm going to be the one to change things, or I've been a winner everywhere, so I'm just going to continue that here. And obviously United's so much bigger than majority of clubs that there's so many different things to deal with that they can't just replicate what they've done somewhere else here. There's the media, there's just so many different things that they have to think about. And I think little things like going away to Grimsby on a Tuesday when it's rainy and wet, they're just thinking...
It was rainy. It was... I mean, I've not seen weather like that.
It was ridiculous. He's probably never seen that before. He's probably just thinking, I'll make a few changes. Players will be ready for this. And him himself is probably thinking, what have I walked into? And not knowing that this is typical, Championship League One, League Two football. And how does he then communicate to the players? Because again, to some of these players, like I made a joke on Twitter, I was like, Casemiro was on the bench. He probably didn't even know where he was. He was probably like, what is happening?
Just wheeled him out into Grimsby and he's gone, oh, what the fuck? Hang on, this isn't Rio de Janeiro.
He's probably thinking, what is this?
Yeah,
so there are elements of the club where there needs to be people to just say, this is what happens when this happens. This is what happens when this happens. Try and just do what you're good at rather than kind of over-explaining yourself or trying to tell everybody how good your system is. Because he kept banging on saying that he wants the system to be so flexible that it's not a 3 at the back. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 2, blah, 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 blah. And he wants all the players to know it inside and out, which is all well and good saying it, but the proof's in the pudding on the pitch, I guess.
Well, hopefully we get there with him. I know you've got to jump off, Rich. Do you want to just give everyone a shout out of where you are, mate, and where they can find you?
Yeah, for people that want to find me, Red Devil United, we'll be doing a stream probably about 5 minutes talking about, we'll be talking about transfers. We'll probably be talking about similar sort of things. We're talking about a bit about Onana, potential January signings. And again, I think there'll be comments and questions that'll be similar to this as well. So if you want to get involved in the discussion, also nice to meet you, Tez. Good to speak to you.
Nice
and
to meet you.
Good to catch up again, Dan. Thanks for joining when you joined for the preview for the Arsenal match.
No
And I'll just say this to people watching: it's going to be a long season. I think the scrutiny is going to be crazy. Just give Lammens like decent, give him some leeway because he's coming in. He's going to be better than Onana and Bayindir. We need to trust that we're moving in the right direction with some of these players signing. And I'm still saying this. I think we can win against City. I think it's a game I'm looking forward to. And I will say this: compared with the last 5-10 games of last season, I'm looking forward more to watching Man United this season. I've got more belief in the team that we're going to be like a stock market thing, up and down. It's going to be unpredictable. But I think there's going to be a good performance in there somewhere, hopefully for us to talk about.
I hope so.
Cheers for the invite, Dan.
No
Cheers, Jez, in the comments as well. Some great questions and comments. I will hopefully speak to you guys very soon, and I'll see you in the next one.
See you, Rich. Take care, mate.
Yeah, it's fine.
I think he makes a point there, and it's like, at what point, Tez, do we start getting excited to watch United? Like God, take me back 10, 15 years ago when I was just like, here we go. We're going to watch United today. It's going to be great. Is it literally just a case now of surely it will happen soon? Surely the players will just click into that gear in one game and then we just go and it just skyrockets? Or is it a case of we're just going to have to wait and hope that we're somewhere near in the table for next season to be back in Europe, and then we replace the players that are outgoing then?
It's difficult, isn't it? I actually, from a personal standpoint, I'm not the biggest fan of Amorim tactically. I do think I understand why he's come in and he's said, my idea, I've been hired to play in this way, and it's brought success. But he needs to also understand that he was at Sporting, where the competition is not the same. You've got two of the big clubs, Benfica and Porto, who you're fighting with, and it's not the same as in the Premier League, where you've got the top 6 plus Brightons, your Villas, Newcastles, etc., who can all at any given day beat you and also finish above you in the season. So you're fighting with 10 teams realistically to be in the top half of the league. With, you could practically say, Arsenal, Liverpool, and City and Chelsea are probably top 4 already. So that leaves you from 5th to 10th to try and get into the top. I think for this season, I think he's got a huge kind of chance of getting United back into Europe just because of the one game a season. I think he's not going to find himself in a position like this if he stays at United, whether that's him staying or whether he doesn't do well enough and he's let go, to be in this situation where he can prep week by week, really plan, drill everything he wants down on the training field. Because if United finish outside of Europe again, I don't think he'll be kept in charge. I think
I don't think it can. I don't think it can happen, can it? It would destroy us financially as well. Like I don't think people realise just how big the financial implications are if we don't get Europe, and it has to be any form of Europe, because we, as it's known, I think we pretty much bought on the credit card this summer, and with what we've outlaid there, it has to be the incomings coming back in. I think. Here's my thoughts on it for us to close. I just feel like, luckily for Manchester United at the moment, at the start of this season, teams haven't started as great as they'd have anticipated. I think Villa have done horrendously in the transfer market. We were expecting so much more from them. Newcastle, obviously, I think got the first taste of, well, we're a big club because we're in the Champions League. But hang on a minute, why aren't the players coming to us? So they're struggling with that. City obviously have a bit of an identity crisis at the moment. We need to be utilising this part of the season to try and pull away from those teams. Now, yes, granted, City are our next game. After that is Chelsea. But if Manchester United, and more importantly, if Ruben Amorim goes out there and gets 4 points from these two games, it sets Manchester United's season up ridiculously well. And you've already got the three of the big hitters out the way so early on: City, Arsenal, and Chelsea. You've got Liverpool to come up. Then we can really focus on the teams around us that we should be beating in that mini battle to get up the table. So it's not out the realms of possibility, is it, Tez? But at the same time, dare we dream to believe and we can get up there. Well, then I think it backs this manager to go out there and start moving things around and bringing more in.
Yeah, I agree. And I almost think, I know some people in the comments have kind of talked about resilience and, mentality. But I think naturally for the bigger games, the team does pick itself up for the big games, whether that's good or bad is neither here or there. But I think what you're saying is correct, because if you go away and you beat City again for the second year running, and then you kind of welcome Chelsea at home. Chelsea, I know I said it at the beginning of the season, Arsenal don't historically do well at Old Trafford. I think they've got 2 wins in the last 8 or 9 times they've been here. Chelsea, historically, haven't, in the last 5-6 seasons, haven't done that well at Old Trafford either. So you take that on board and you think, this is a Chelsea who might even come with Garnacho. He wants to come and show why he left. There's all these little narratives that come in, and you just think, right, okay, this is the perfect opportunity to play these two teams. Because
I agree.
If you get 6 points, I'm not saying after that doesn't matter, but you go into Brentford away, which will be a tough game, but you go into that game thinking, right, okay, the pressure's really off, and like we can almost play a little bit more free.
Yeah.
And then you've got Sunderland at home, and you think, oh, okay, we should be beating them. I know they've got good players and stuff, but you should be beating them. And then you go into Liverpool, and you think, okay, Liverpool's Liverpool at Anfield. But last season, arguably we should have beaten them as well. Drew 2-2. And then you've got Brighton, the bogey team. We never beat Brighton anywhere, so you can just write that one off. But you're then going into November thinking, you know what, actually, as the other teams are now playing Europe a bit more, United might be in 4th, 5th position if you just win 3 out of the next 5 or so. And then as the other teams are Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Saturday evening, you can kind of just go. The only time where it'll get tricky for United is when we get to, well, it's going to be tricky all season, but December time when AFCON comes.
Yeah.
If we don't have the players in attacking positions to fill in, it might be an issue, because Ahmad and Mbomo will definitely be going.
Yeah.
Mazraoui will be going as well. I don't think Kone plays for the national team. Yeah, I think he still plays for the young unders. But
he's not made. I don't think he's played for the Mali. I don't think he's made it. I think he's gone under 21s, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I think so.
So that could be an issue if we're doing well or not doing well, and then all of a sudden, your 3 key players are kind of taken away for 3-4 weeks. But I do have optimism, because I do think the difference with this United team is that a lot of these players are new. They've only been there 1 year, 18 months, 2 years. So this whole thing of, they say the team, they're letting the manager down. It's like, well, no, it's a new manager, and it's majority new players. There's only like 4 players, I think Shaw, Bruno, Maguire, Dallo, I think, who have been there for more than like 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Could be missing a few, but I think it's just mainly those. So realistically, there's no excuses for the manager or the players now, I would say.
Well, so we're just, I mean, as you say, if we get to November and I think for us, it's key. If we're in November and we're sort of still in and around the sort of 9th to sort of 5th spots there, you think, well, actually, okay, now we can push on. We've got, we know Europe has essentially kicked in, and clubs around us will struggle with Europe. People don't realise how taxing Europe is. The Thursday, Sundays, it takes a lot out of the players. And what's Andy saying here? Andy's saying we have to get around Amorim for this year at least, and I think we will. And I think what he has is he does have the ownership back in there. But equally, I think if we find ourselves in November in sort of 16th, 17th, then I think it would be a case of I think he would be gone. I think that regardless of how much they've spent. But look, football's such an annoying thing, Tez. It can have you a pure elation and then brings you down to your knees. Unfortunately for us United fans, it's been on our knees more than we care to admit. But the only thing that can happen is we just carry on supporting, and hopefully we have that turnaround. But mate, I appreciate you coming on tonight. It's
no
been fantastic, mate. And as I say, I love. Before Tez tells you where to find him, if you go follow him on Twitter. This guy breaks down a game better than any of those Match of the Day panelists, any of those Sky Sports News panelists. I sit there and I read them and I go, there's me saying we win, and you've just broke everything down. So where can we find you, Tez?
Appreciate it. Yeah. So Tezki, so TEZSKII on Twitter or X, whatever you call it. That's just my app for everything. I started writing articles on Medium as well, so on there. Haven't really got too much video content as of yet, because I'm trying to figure out what the best medium is, whether to do short form or longer form. But it probably will be longer. It should probably be short form, kind of TikTok or Instagram or something. But my ad's the same across everything, so you'll find
more space for you to come on these shows, mate. Definitely more space, because honestly, I sit there and I'm thinking, right, I'm going to write the questions out, but hang on a minute. But he's going to be too dumb to ask him. He does break it down better than I could ever imagine. So, no, mate, absolute superstar. And make sure you follow him, guys.
It's only when I'm writing for myself or putting something else out, I'll go into kind of tactical depth. But if it's just shows and stuff, I'm just happy to kind of join in. So it's all good.
Spot on, mate. Spot on. Well, guys, we'll leave it there. The main thing to take away from this tonight is that we have been down, we have been out, but by God and I don't know how some of us still bloody believe. Will Amorim be the guy to make us get back into the place that we should be? We'll just have to wait and find out. But from me, Dan United, and from Tez, we will catch you later. Take care, all. Dan United. Boota!